Yes, the way the blood flew through the air was truly artistic expression. I'm just like, what the flip? And that's it, exactly what this reminded me of. I loved killing him.
I am now recording in 4K at 60 FPS, and it will not come out as that.
Perfect. Time for the theme song. Bibliorbis. Woohoo! Sorry, there's more of a jingle.
Cam, do you want to read the stories, or?
Yeah, I can read them.
Mm-hmm.
Unless people want to read their own stories, but I don't advise that just because we could get connection issues.
True, yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably best for me to read all of them. If you want to interrupt me for anything, if I have intonation issues or anything like that in your story, interrupt me, go ahead. Or if anyone wants to ask questions of the author in this, for the first one, pun, then once again, go ahead, interrupt me.
Be happy to. Take her away.
So, Sabrina watched the clock, awaiting her uncle's return. Tick, tock. It was 9:05 p.m. He always came home around 9. That was when he finished with his duties as mayor of Chicago. What did he do as mayor? She never knew, because he never told her anything about what he did. Tick, tock. Her uncle kept her locked away in his penthouse. The only thing telling her what happened outside was a single television. She kept asking why she wasn't allowed to go outside, and the only response she got was, "It's dangerous outside," with no explanation why. Tick, tock. She hated it when he came home. Some days he'd ignore her and go straight to bed. Other days he stayed up and screamed at her for screwing up, even for imagined mistakes. She liked it when he went to sleep. Tick, tock. To the left of the living room was the office. It was the place where he did his paperwork. It was the place where he drank his whiskey. It was the place where he unbuttoned her dress yesterday. Tick, tock. It was the place where she was standing. It was the place where he kept his gun, stored away in a desk drawer with a cheap lock. She watched people use guns in the movies. It always made people sleep. Tick, tock. The lock was on the floor. She'd spent the entire day going through every possible combination. Even remembering the movies she'd watched, it took her a long time to figure out how to load the gun. Tick, tock. The gun shook as she held it in her hands, gripping it tightly as she could. She would make sure he went to sleep today. She didn't want another yesterday. Tick, tock. The door to the penthouse creaked open, and she backed away from the office door. She heard his footsteps inching closer and closer. She aimed the gun shakily, imagining where he would be when the door opened. The footsteps stopped. The door and the office door swung open. A gunshot rang out as she pulled the trigger. He lay on the ground, blood pouring from his wound. He wasn't asleep, not yet. He stared at her with wide eyes and started crawling away. She aimed the gun again and fired, again and again, until the gun only clicked. His shirt, which had been white, was now red. She walked up to his still body and nudged him gently. She knew now that he was sleeping. He wouldn't hurt her anymore.
I like the characterization of the mayor.
Go ahead, Carl.
I just wanted to say that I like how you can dislike the mayor in this one.
Yeah, even though he's barely there, he only appears at the end. You can still very much get his character. It's kind of like...
You still feel his presence.
Yeah. It's kind of like Dracula in a way, I guess. Because like in the novel Dracula, he only appears a little bit at the beginning in what's his name's journal entries. What's his name? What's the main character's name of Dracula?
Isn't that story epistolary?
Yeah, it's
is it
really weird. But the point I was making was Dracula appears at the beginning and at the end, and basically and once or twice in between, but you still feel his presence, and he's still very well characterized. I think this is kind of reminiscent of that in a way.
Awesome.
I think Pan wanted to say something about it as well.
Not gonna lie, may have forgotten what I was going to say.
Okay. Kadane, you wanted to say something as well?
No, I was going to say that there were, like, it's short, and the lines are, like, a lot of them feel like a child is. And, I don't know, just, like, the vibe you get with some of the lines that the child gives kind of give you the creeps. Not like the child's just like you know what's happening. I don't know. To me, it just kind of gives you, which is good because we're trying to give the reader a strong.
Now, to what I don't really like about this background story is how wait, how was the name of the girl again?
Sabrina.
What was it? Sabrina. I was thinking about
once.
Sasha. Yeah. Oh, yeah, right at the start. Anyway, like the characterization of her not really understanding the world outside, I don't know if I like that to be this way.
Yeah,
It's not something inherently wrong,
she's sheltered and is never.
Yet too isolated.
I kind of got that, yeah, because the characterization to me felt like you said, like she doesn't understand the outside world, but the tone made her feel like a psychopath, and so I read it as if she was a psychopath. I read it in that tone.
Yeah.
Yes, I see.
So yeah, I'm not sure if that was the intended tone or not, but I read it in that tone because that's just what the tone felt like, and it didn't really agree with the characterization.
I don't think the tone was too far off of what I was trying to go for, honestly.
I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with going to this approach. It's just not what I would have want Sabrina to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can be a psychopath and you can not understand the outside world. You can be both.
Yeah.
Well, I think the main problem here was I think I went for an isolationist angle because I was assuming Sabrina was like this little kid who might have had a few experiences like growing up, but then when she was like super young was given to her uncle, and it didn't occur to me that I might have been writing Sabrina in the wrong age. So a lot of this was me believing that Sabrina was a child, and she's being like abused as a child. So I kind of wrote it in that way, and then when I finished, I was like, "Oh no, wait a minute! I didn't check Sabrina's age."
Well,
yeah, she's a teenager. Whoops.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense then.
Well, but when it comes to, do have one thing right. The abuser is going to attempt to isolate, whether it's like physical isolation in her case, where she actually go outside, or like try friends, that sort of thing. I think you have one part correct that I do like, because I mean, maybe I know too much about this, but there are all sorts of different arenas where abuse will to control someone. Emotional abuse or emotional isolation. There's other ways that would be different. He could threaten to not let her have anything. TV is a tool, whatever. But maybe I could be going too deep to something that doesn't require that level of.
The thing is, I wouldn't want her to be too isolated and emotionally abused, because I would say that that's probably going to give us some problems later down the line, and also would probably make her a bit less likable to our MC at the start of the story.
I think I figured why the psychopath tone kind of came through to me, and when Pun brought up the fact that he originally wrote her as a small child before, that kind of rang a bell with me, that it kind of really, small children act like psychopaths. Just in the way that in the way that they think, they act like psychopaths, and so a psychopathic tone and a small child tone will always look kind of similar.
Also, there was, relatively speaking, a lot of repetitions. I'm pretty sure that was intentional. Like, it was the place, it was the place, it was the place. Yeah,
It
that as
felt
well.
like a 5-year-old telling a story,
Yeah,
which is frustrating.
Yeah, I
If you
did.
listen to a small kid tell a story, it's not fun to listen to their story.
Yeah.
The story
Yeah,
is cute.
yeah, I know that's
But it
probably
takes them
intentional.
a week to tell it.
Yeah. So I guess that also makes sense. Do we want to keep on analyzing this bit, or do we want to go to the next one?
Let's do another one.
Okay. This
Yeah.
will be Cordain's then, because I put them in order of ambiguity of intent.
Before we continue, can I say something
Yep.
first about like Cordain's about like Cordain saying, "Oh, this is like something that like abusers would do."
Yep.
I actually didn't think about that at all. I wasn't like, "Oh, this mayor is like clearly gonna like abuse his child." This is what an abuser would do. I was just thinking, okay, this mayor, like thinking in my head like what his character would be. I just thought that was something like the mayor that I would see the mayor doing, like just like trying to isolate like Sabrina from like the world in order to try and like.
So specifically, you're kind of thinking
Yeah.
it's a way that he's protecting his own reputation.
Yeah, because I actually included like a bit where he's like telling her, like he's like on the phone and he's like, oh, if word gets out about like Sabrina, my reputation's gonna tank. But I cut that out because I thought that was
Bit too on the nose.
It was
Yeah.
kind of a bit too much telling, not enough showing.
yeah.
Okay, coming back to Cordain's story. To Cordain's story. The second least ambiguous intent. Or the second most ambiguous intent. It's the middle one. Cordain, you're the middle ground for once. The first time in your life you've been the middle ground.
Wow, that's amazing.
The cool air gently brushed her skin as she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The fancy single-bladed fan slowly rotated. Its creamy black on the off-white ceiling was mesmerizing, pulling her through the silent minutes. Then the lock beeped 10 times to denote the hour. Her parents wouldn't be home from their concert until 11:30, and by then it would be all over again, until the next time. She shivered. The quiet click of the front door barely reached her ears from the other side of the house. Her muscles tensed and her jaw clenched. Mixed emotions swelled up in her chest, but she didn't shove them away. She deserved them. She'd let it start and she'd let it continue. Anger bit at her self-control. Fear suffocated her confidence. Self-loathing swallowed up her happiness. For a moment she shuddered and then sat up. Her baggy pajamas hid her figure and were supposedly the most comfortable and expensive. But she missed the old worn ones made of cotton. "But we're people of means now, sweetie," her mother had said, which meant that everything even slightly old or inexpensive had to go. Everything in her house was expensive now. Not that she cared any longer. Her clothes from a year ago no longer fit, and pajamas were the only clothes she had that weren't fancy and uncomfortable. "You have to look nice for your new school," her mother had said. Meanwhile, Sabrina was wearing 2 small shoes, gaudy hair, and a fancy bra that dug into her ribs. But now, sitting in pajamas and a sports bra, she was even less comfortable. Footsteps in the hallway. Her breath caught. The floorboards weren't wood, though they looked it, and they never, ever creaked. The doorknob turned only slightly before it stopped. Locked. She let out the breath she was holding. Not tonight, she lied to herself. The tension never dissipated. She told herself that the door wouldn't open, but her intuition knew better, and that door would open soon. It did. After only another minute, the lock was bypassed and a man stepped in. He was tall compared to her, but not to other men. Mayor Stephen Bruin was just beyond middle-aged and stocky. He had tried to grow a beard to hide his sagging jowls, but failed. He was playing with a ring on his finger, although it wasn't his wedding band. He approached her bed, and he paused at the same moment. Adrenaline shot up her spine and down the lengths of her arms and legs. He could already tell something wasn't the same as the previous times. Sabrina sat there on the edge of her bed looking at the floor. He resumed and sat down next to her and put his hand on her shoulder. She felt a slight jolt and jumped. It's okay, he pleaded. What was that? Just a little thing to keep things our little secret. Secret, she muttered. Just as the courage to speak rose up, a frog lodged itself in her throat. After a few moments, she swallowed it and spoke. I said something to Mum. Bruin froze. And? He said. She wouldn't even let me say anything. Wouldn't listen. Bruin got off the bed and squatted in front of her. He put a hand on her arm and began to speak. Listen, Sabrina. It's important that nobody knows. He gripped her arm and brought a finger pointing straight up between their faces. Don't you ever tell anyone what we do. Don't you ever tell people what we do, he said, shaking his finger. I am not a rapist. I'm not. Yes, he is. No. I said yes. You're in high school. Can you really say yes? Could I actually say no? I just don't want to do this anymore. We already have. Can't take back any of it back. You said yes already. What was that on my neck? I told you. She stared. I figured parenthood wasn't on your agenda at your age. Her stomach dropped and her eyes grew to saucers. No, she croaked. We've been together for a while now. This is the next step that I expect. He only just touched the end of her sleeve, and Sabrina shot up to her feet. I need some water. She started for the door. Bruin reached out and grabbed her hand. Wait. Stop, she said, as she slapped his hand and wrenched hers free. He stood and began to step towards her, and she dashed out of the room. For an adult man, he was slow. She reached the kitchen before she even tried to make a plan. Her eyes searched frantically. Knife block, yes. She grabbed the biggest one that was in there, a long, broad knife. The chrome finish glinted off the faint lights from the kitchen appliances. Footsteps followed in the hallway. She ran through the kitchen, eyes searching, head planning. Her parents' room. No way Bruin would be able to get in there. She ran. She slammed the door and then locked it, no longer worried if he knew where she was. Then leapt over the large bed in the center of the room. She put her back to the side of the bed, knife clutched in her hands. She heard nothing over the sounds of her panting breaths. A knife? What am I going to do? Kill him? A little girl with a knife versus a man? Yeah, and the next time your parents are out, what then? You gonna grab a knife every time? Yes. Lol. Stop it. You stop it. Mum won't listen. His brother could never. Dad can't risk his important new job. Mum won't sacrifice her life of luxury that she's always been bitter about being denied until now. I will. I'll go to the authorities. He is the authority. Remember what happened to his son who killed that family drunk driving? Nothing. Killed 4 people and nothing. You think they'll do anything for a poor, abused little girl? She turned onto her hands and knees to watch for the light under the door from the dark of her parents' bedroom. Then her hands touched a metal box. She felt for it. It was about the size of a shoebox. She couldn't find a lid, but there were 6 glowing numbers on the top. 1 to 6. A gun safe? Guns aren't legal in this city. Although her uncle was the mayor of the city and had connections, it was an open secret that they got special privileges. She stared. She heard footsteps outside the room and panic spiked through her again. The gears in her head whirred. Passcode. She went through the passcodes of her father's that she already knew, and then quickly keyed in her birthday that coincidentally didn't use any numbers above 6. The glowing red buttons turned blue, and she heard a click. She lifted the lid to find a black revolver inside. It wasn't creamy like the ceiling fan in her room. It was hard and stoic and menacing. She lifted the gun as she heard the door rattle. He can't come in. I locked it. Yeah, just like your bedroom door was locked too. He can't, he will. I need to talk to someone. Who? There's only one way. One way. The door just began to open. It's you or him. She pulled the trigger. The boom hurt her ears and the flash forced her eyes closed. The recoil forced the gun from her inexperienced hands. When she opened her eyes, there was a hole in the door the size of an old-timey coin. She dropped the gun and crept around the bed. Dear? Dear, what was that? Mother. Sounded like someone let off a firecracker in here. Sabrina opened the door all the way to see a figure lying on the floor, with an expanding pool of blood surrounding them. A courageous grin crossed her face. Never again, you pervert. Images of prison and juvie flashed through her mind, but at that moment that felt so far away and so insignificant. Macy, she heard a male voice call. Her mother entered the hallway and looked at the figure on the floor and froze. Macy. Then her uncle, Mayor Stephen Bruin, was standing next to her mother. Sabrina looked down to see the still face of her father on the floor. So, comments on that one?
I have several questions.
Let's get started.
Okay, what's the relation between the uncle and the father and the mother and basically the whole situation?
Her mother is the mayor's sister.
Yeah.
That's not what it says in the story, damn you.
What does it say?
It says, you stop it, Mum won't listen, his brother could never.
It should say his brother could never. Okay, well then I guess
it would have to be her brother.
I must have changed it in my headcanon after I wrote that. And make it her brother. We can change that later.
Okay.
We should hire a copy editor. But anyway.
Well, I didn't do much editing on these. I just kind of edited for grammar.
Fair. Well, and you couldn't have known what I was thinking, so.
Yeah.
All right. Next question, Colin.
What's the connection between Sabrina's father and the uncle? Is her father working for him, or?
That's a good question. So, like I said, it's difficult to convey in a story so short without breaking up the what's the term? Not the flow, the pacing. But the mayor's used his influence to get her father a lucrative job. Not necessarily in government, but he has used his influence to get him the job.
Okay. Okay, so that's why her father is kind of indebted to her uncle. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So he's indebted to his own brother-in-law for the lucrative job he has now, and her mother has always, wanted the wealthy life, has never had it until now.
And the whole situation plays out where? In their house or in the mayor's house?
I left that vague. If I were to make the story a little longer, I would make it clear that it's a group home of sorts. So there's one kitchen, one living room, but there's like sleeping quarters on one side of the house, sleeping quarters on the other side of the house. But I left it ambiguous for length purposes.
Okay, because I found it a bit confusing when she went for the gun. If you could go back to that part, Colin.
Yep.
It's.
Where is it?
Here it is. There you go, right in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
She ran to her parents' room.
Yeah. And then you explain how her uncle has the connections, which kind of makes it sound like it's his gun, but then she uses her father's code to unlock it. So
I figure unspokenly, he can use his influence for himself or for others. I hadn't even thought to connect that his influence can get her father again.
Yeah, I kind of thought that like logic-wise that would have made the most sense, but it didn't come out in the text itself
Right.
really well. So, I mean, it's not a huge problem, and I get that we had some restrictions, which
Yeah,
kind of threw off the board anyway. So.
It's like you have to break out of this room with a toothpick and a pizza box. That's basically how we write stories.
Anyway, so that's some of the critiques, I guess, that I would have wanted to address. But overall, I like how the I guess especially the start of the story, how it makes her feel isolated without the very explicit. More like an emotional isolation compared to Pun's more physical and I guess also emotional isolation. I like that. And how the gun, the recoil of the gun, threw it out of her hands. I think that's something pretty realistic for someone who has never fired a gun and doesn't expect the recoil of a revolver. So.
Has anyone here fired a handgun before?
No, the closest I've done is a bow, which doesn't have any recoil because it's a bow.
Well, not recoil in the same way. Colin, what did you say?
Yeah, I think that's realistic. I haven't fired one myself yet, but I've seen plenty of people in videos who didn't
mess it up.
Didn't expect it, and it either jumped into their face or they just dropped it. So.
Yeah, we were at a church shoot one time, and one kid got a scope right in the eye.
Yeah, that's to be expected.
Did he have the block of the gun over his shoulder instead of on it?
No, he was sitting at a table and just had his head leaned way forward towards the scope, and it just cut his just over his just under his eyebrow in the circular scope shape. It was bleeding pretty good, and. Well, he learned very quickly. Well, fortunately, his eye wasn't damaged.
Did no one advise him before he shot it? Or...
Oh, well, he had shot several shots already, and so people kind of feel comfortable, and no one's downrange, and that's the number one rule. And so long as that rule's going, he felt comfortable, and then he kept leaning forward further and further because he was missing, and finally, whack.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
anyway, we're a little off topic.
Yeah,
so
not too far.
Still on the story.
Yeah,
that's true.
I liked the progression of atmosphere throughout, and I think that actually came through in my reading of it as well. The progression of the atmosphere and the tone throughout, that it kind of faded quite nicely from one tone to the next, but it had a very distinct tone changes. There might have been places where I would have changed the prose, but generally speaking, I would change prose in most things. Like, I can read professionally written books, and I would have changed that.
I would have liked to see Stephen get shot instead of the father, but I guess it makes more sense if it's the father.
Well, I was halfway through writing it with every intention of having Bruin be shot. However, at that point, I was like, wait, hold on. I could make this really tragic. And I was kind of nervous because I don't know which way I should go until I wrote the end. I was like, okay, I'm going to go with the brutal ending and have the fall. Make it more tragic.
Which makes means that the story afterwards, where the guy wants to be, what was his name? Rovka, wasn't it?
Rovka,
yeah.
I think,
Rovka, yeah. Wants to be her father figure, and she's just going to be like, I don't want a father figure. I killed the last one. If this were the original. If this were where it started.
Right. They may lead her to reject a father or even a brother figure.
Yeah.
And it also I had a train of thought, and I think it might have derailed.
I would
So come
argue,
back.
though, that, yeah, she would initially probably reject this kind of relationship, but I would say if she sees how Rovka then protects her, she may get a new kind of relation with the term father itself.
Yeah.
So maybe she wouldn't like see him as her father figure, but she would like appreciate what a father would probably be like.
Right? It
makes
might
sense.
take a half stand.
One thing I
and
wanted
become
to
brother. Go ahead, Colin.
yeah, you broke up a bit for me, but
Oh.
I'm gonna just say what I wanted to say really quick, and then you can repeat
Sure.
what you said. One thing that I found a bit odd was how Sabrina told Stephen that she spoke with her mother. I initially, like, in the situation, I wouldn't think that she would tell him that, because that kind of gives her hand, or like her cards away a bit.
Right.
It makes sense in the overall progression of the story, though, because then you would see how her mother doesn't care and doesn't want to know anything about it, so she would be antagonistic towards her. Like she's antagonistic towards her from the start of the story, which means that when she kills her father, she wouldn't take her side.
Yeah, there you go. And that was one part that I was kind of
I'm
unsure
finished.
about. And if I had more time, or maybe if I were a better writer, I would prepare ahead of time in the paragraphs before to let you know that she plans on having some sort of confrontation with the mayor to almost like try to break up with him in a way. I know that term probably feels inappropriate in this situation, but it's the best word I have.
Might be. It's a better term.
And things, yeah, and things. And so she kind of works up her courage because she did try to talk to her mom, and maybe she might be able to scare him off if she lets him know that she's willing to talk to people. You know what I mean? But I may have to set that up better, or I might just break the rules and give myself another paragraph to explain it. I was also going to give her a brother,
Okay, but then she wouldn't. Then she wouldn't say that her mother didn't listen, though.
That's true. I may have to give this some more thought. So that's one part that I wasn't quite sure about, but I put it in there because I wanted him to. I wanted to show that for him, things are kind of shaky. Like, it's not like he's got everything under perfect control.
And you gave him.
Because if she were to say something, that would cause problems for him. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't like, ha ha ha, I'm the villain, I'm invincible. It's more like, I have to like carefully manipulate this person to make sure she does what I want, because if she doesn't do what I want, things could end up badly for me.
Yeah, he's a realistic. He's a realistic antagonist. He's not a comic book bad guy. From the rooftop, above all the city lights, the stars flickered like a million campfires. The disk of the Milky Way glimmered a stunning sash across the sky. They were supposed to be compared to candles, not campfires, according to her friends and family. But Sabrina had decided long ago that they were campfires. Why else would the ancients have chosen the sky as the home for their gods? Much like the web of electric lights that dazzled those far overhead in the first space age, Sabrina imagined that the stars were the campfires of immortals. What use would immortals have for electric lights that paled in comparison to the beauty of an open flame? She dreamed that one day she might be able to explore the worlds around those distant marvels, or even just one. Always with the stars, a voice broke her out of her reverie. While I'm quite certain you could outshine them all, I was hoping you would spend at least a few more years with us mere mortals back here on Earth. Stephen smiled to her as he strode carelessly across the edge of the roof. I suppose I could spare a few years for a different bag of hot air, Sabrina beamed back to her boyfriend. She pushed herself to her feet and was instantly enveloped in the warmest of embraces. You could have at least gone for plasma, you know, Stephen said over the top of her head. Sabrina pulled back to look him in the eyes. Plasma? She inquired. Bag of hot plasma, Stephen clarified, because I'm the hottest around. Sabrina raised an amused eyebrow. Does that mean I'm cooler than you? That's not fair. I didn't It wasn't meant to be. I know a lot of people who would have laughed at that joke, Stephen sputtered. Was that a stutter, or was that the sound of you trying to stay relevant? Sabrina wondered. Oh, come on, stop it. I'm already dead, Stephen pouted. Anyway, your dad asked me to get you inside. Sabrina rolled her eyes. Of course he did. Sabrina's father had always been ashamed of his fantastical daughter. She was a blight on his family's good name. There was no place for prayer under his ceilings, he told her. So she prayed above them. Sabrina didn't pray to the old Abrahamic god or any of the gods of the other ancient creeds. She didn't mind who heard her prayers. Sabrina believed that there was someone out there who cared. The details weren't her concern. Hey, you're 15, only a couple more years until you can leave, Stephen reassured her. That was the plan. Only a little longer, and then they'd have forever. Stephen didn't believe like she did. Very few did anymore. But he supported her, and he loved her as much as she adored him. I'll head inside. You go help with the setup, Sabrina sighed. She wasn't welcome at her father's annual festival to celebrate the announcement of his company's flagship initiatives for the year ahead. A man of his standing couldn't be associated with a deranged child who believed in immortals in the sky. Sabrina did as she promised and headed inside. She started a new book she'd recently bought, another obscurity her father hated. No one read bound books anymore. Fortunately, as long as she bought them with her own money, he didn't take them away. It was less than an hour later that the door creaked open and Sabrina looked up from her book, smiling when she saw that it was Stephen. Come with me, I want to show you something, he beckoned. Sabrina looked down from her book and back up at Stephen. But my chapter, she complained. Stephen pulled a face. Finish the chapter, then come, he eventually conceded. Once she was ready, Stephen led Sabrina outside, and she gasped when they stepped into a brightly lit courtyard, deserted except for them. Beautiful chandeliers hung from metal supports overhead. Their lights flickered like a million campfires. I love it, Sabrina said softly. But are we allowed to be here? Technically not, but who's going to find out? Stephen shrugged. That was enough for her. It wasn't often they had the opportunity to be together with nothing to discuss, nothing to worry about. Sabrina lived for these moments when she and Stephen could just delight in each other's company, and she knew that he did too. What's she doing here? They had stayed for too long. Sabrina's father stormed into the courtyard. Well, he demanded, looking to Stephen for an answer. There's no one else here. I didn't mean to... Sabrina tried to defend herself. Quiet. You'll speak when I tell you to, he growled. Don't talk to her like that, Stephen warned, and her father's expression darkened further. I believe an apology is in order, he said, his entire body going deathly still. Not from me, Stephen rejected, spitting at Sabrina's father's feet. The older man recoiled. I will not accept such insubordination from the likes of you, he snarled, raising a hand to deliver a heavy blow. Get away from him, Sabrina cried, rushing forward and pushing her father away from her boyfriend. The man collided with a metal pillar, and the whole structure groaned. Sabrina felt something hit her from the side, and she was tossed to the ground. She rolled over, and he was there. A chandelier pinned Stephen down right where she had been standing. Sabrina screamed. There were words, but she could never remember what they were. There was so much blood, but there was movement too. He was breathing. His eyes were closed, but his chest rose and fell. He had to be breathing. Idiot girl. Sabrina turned. The last thing she saw was her father's foot flying towards her jaw, and then it was black. They never found a body, only blood. The DNA was a match, though, and Stephen was nowhere to be found. There was no murder weapon, but they determined that was what it had to have been. She told the truth. Her father denied it all. The prosecution claimed she was clever, wanted the lesser charge of manslaughter. Without a body, it was her word against her father's, a troubled child against an upstanding businessman. The stars flickered like a million campfires. She dreamed that one day she might be able to explore the worlds around those distant marvels, or even just one. Only a little longer, and they'd have forever. She would receive her dream, and she would have forever. he would be forever in her dreams. And comments on that one?
So, big oof, her dad killed her boyfriend.
I mean, she kinda...
Or did he die from his injuries? We don't know.
Yeah, the chandelier fell on him. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But was it her father's aggressive action that got the chandelier, that knocked the chandelier down anyway?
Well, it was.
Or was it just a tragic accident?
It was her father hitting the support pillar at the side after Stephen shoved him.
Oof. What is that? Third degree?
Sorry,
I don't remember which order it goes in.
Sorry, it wasn't Stephen, it was Sabrina. Sabrina shoved him.
Mm.
Oh, so Sabrina killed her own boyfriend.
Technically, yes. Although it was because he knocked her out of the way because it was going to fall on her, and then it fell on him, and then we don't know if her father killed him.
So it was heroic sacrifice.
Yeah, but we don't know if her father killed him after that, or if he died from his injuries, because it's left ambiguous.
Here's the thing, I like Sabrina's characterization in this one probably the most. I'm like the whole murder situation, or like how the death occurs, feels a bit contrived to me. There's like a few points where I would say, well, first of all, a girl shoving a grown man, unless her father is like really whimsy, I don't think that would happen easily.
He stumbled backwards.
Yeah. But even still, like, she's what, 15, 16?
Yeah, so fully grown. Most girls stop growing about 14, 15.
True.
Yeah, true. But my point of contention would then be that the supporting biller wouldn't be able to handle that. But I mean, I could see it. I don't know.
That was an issue for me. For me, the death seems rather it's very accidental and less intentional. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily an issue.
I don't think that's an issue in itself. It's just there's so many points in which I would say I'm not sure if I would see this happening the way it did. Also, we get a lot of good characterization between Sabrina and her boyfriend, which I really enjoy. But the father is comes onto the scene without much setup, which makes it a bit comical to me.
Setup. He's stated to be an atheist. Like most people in this age, as I decided to make it in the setting. And he's stated to not like anything that's kind of archaic, like reading books. He doesn't like that. He doesn't take them away if they're her own books. But if she asks for them, he's just like, no, you can't have books, not unless you buy them with your own money. But he is set up a little bit beforehand.
Yes, but the level of choleric, like how angry he comes across feels a bit much to me. I don't know. Maybe if I reread the story.
If there's more characterization on the father to show us where all the anger comes from, or even some sort of indication from her to let her know that this isn't unusual for her father to be this angry, or that, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like it seems like it comes out of nowhere a little bit.
So he's a little bit. He's a little bit melodramatic in that sense.
Yeah, his anger is a little abrupt.
Yeah.
I think if I could only fix one thing through the whole story, it would just be the pacing, because he starts out angry and it's a little abrupt, then the death occurs and it's abrupt. Now, the abruptness of the death may be intentional, So I don't want to like detract from that if that's the way it's supposed
the
to be.
abruptness of the death was intentional. Yeah,
Okay.
it was meant to be.
Well, then I no longer have a
very fast
then,
paced.
then I no longer have a complaint about the abruptness of the death.
But yeah, the abruptness of the father coming on and being angry, it wasn't really intentional. It was more really just a product of the fact that I was trying to reduce the number of words. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it is tough to you know, you got to play with the cards you're dealt, but you only have 2 cards.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. True.
But restriction makes writing better generally.
Yeah.
My personal opinion.
Yeah, I might have spent a bit too long just kind of making the reader like Stephen.
Yeah. I was kind of bummed to see him die.
Yeah, the idea was that you don't like seeing him die. You just go, no. So I might have spent a bit too long just kind of building him up and going, look, this guy's a great guy. He's really great. Also, now he's going to die.
I
knew that he's gonna die, but like
no one's gonna die.
When I read him, read the sentence, "Oh, I'm already dead," and I was like, "Wait a second, you're gonna die in a bit, sure, but you're not dead yet." So
yeah, but he was saying it in a kind of a teasing way.
Yeah, I knew, but I was just like going, "Okay."
Yeah, foreshadowing. Yeah,
he should say that when he's under the chandelier.
Oh, come on, stop it, I'm already dead.
Because I'm a zombie, actually. Another plot twist.
Suddenly just becomes a slapstick comedy.
Oh, man.
Oops.
Okay, do we want to stay on this this story specifically, or do we want to try to get some bullet points about what we take away for Sabrina's characterization and backstory overall?
I'm not sure what you mean, so why don't you start so I know what you're talking about?
Okay, so my approach to the whole thing would be now, I'm not sure how much time you guys have, and I'm not really interested in writing the backstory because I know I would suck at it. So
yeah, I actually didn't enjoy writing this. It was difficult, mainly because it was so creepy.
That's why I copped out from the start.
I enjoyed writing it, but I kind of wrote it in a very different way to both you and Pun, because I wrote it in I wanted to build I wrote it in a sense that I kind of made Stephen the focus, and I went, I'm going to make him kind of the main character from Sabrina's perspective, build him up, and I will enjoy building him up, and then I really enjoyed killing him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please don't say that without proper context.
I enjoyed killing him.
Bibliorbis without context.
So, did you guys ever play Oblivion?
Yeah, I've played through Oblivion.
No,
Yeah.
I've not.
Yeah, so when you're in the Assassin's Guild, the Dark Brotherhood, there's a part where you meet them. You have to meet them all at like Applegate to like kill someone. You get there, they've already killed them, and anytime you talk to them, they're like, "Oh yes, the way the blood flew through the air was truly artistic expression." I'm just like, "What the flip?" And that's exactly what this reminded me of. I loved killing him. Just the way the red water come out. Anyway.
Yeah, what I meant with getting the bullet points for Sabrina's characterization, I personally wouldn't want to like take all the bits that I like and then put them together to really write the backstory again, but just figure out which parts influence Sabrina's character going forward in our short story. So, for example, the point she has a boyfriend, and they have good chemistry. That could be like something that we know her to have or to have had back on Earth.
Yeah.
Then the whole dynamic with her father, her mother, and the uncle would be something interesting to explore, and the emotional isolation, for example. And of course, how the death occurred that put her on her way to Casablanca. So, so do we want to go through each story and like see what could we take?
Yeah.
And write it as one sentence, basically, to characterize Sabrina.
Yeah. So kind of what do we like the most out of her characterization in each one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
So what is
okay.
her characterization in this one? In this one, she's very driven in this one.
She's naive.
Yeah.
Is she naive in this one?
Innocent.
Oh, you mean the first
she's
one or
ignorant.
Carbon?
The first one. The first one.
Oh, the first
Yeah.
one. Oh, yeah.
First
Yeah,
one.
naive. Yeah,
Well, she's
Yeah.
going to be partially naive in every one of these, to be honest.
true.
So driven but naive here, and she's also a bit psychotic.
But
Okay. Wait a second. I need to look at your stream again. Hopefully that doesn't crash my ping again.
There's just like a complete lack of remorse in this one.
Oh, yeah, okay. Germany, psychotic. What can we say about her uncle? Or like family structure. I guess in the first one, no parents anymore.
yeah, it's a very, very limited, contained story, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't elaborate much on like what happened to her mom and dad. I was mostly focused on like her current living situation with her uncle and what that entailed for her.
So,
Okay, so her.
the uncle is powerful and corrupt.
Is he corrupt in this one?
How could
Oh,
you
I don't know if
not
he's corrupt
be?
in this one.
I mean, he's
Wow,
probably
way to
corrupt.
assume. Way to assume.
I mean,
Okay.
I think caring about your reputation enough that you would lock a child in your house and make sure no one knows about her is fairly good grounds to consider corruption.
Yeah,
I mean, moral
I just figured.
corruption, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna put a different negative adjective rather than corruption.
Which one then?
Perverted. I don't know. Maniacal.
One question.
When I think of oh, go ahead.
Is the uncle in your story an alcoholic, or is he just enjoying a drink every now and then?
I wouldn't say like an alcoholic. I would say like the latter with like the drinking.
Okay,
Like
because if it's
he's
the latter,
he's had a long day.
yeah. If it's the latter, it's probably also gonna influence Sabrina's stance towards alcohol in general. I would guess.
Mm.
No.
Yeah, that is a good point. You know, because like
And we could have Rovka not be an alcoholic necessarily, but he likes to have a drink every now and then, I guess, and that could be a source of contention then in the short story. I would
Or it could be that as they're traveling, they need to like somehow blend in, and in the place they're in, you know, it's a rural place. There's no drinking age. There's not even a law regarding people drinking, and the fact that she won't try any might blow their cover, or something like that. That's what I think of.
Yeah, could. So alcohol as a point of contention for her could be an interesting character trait, I guess. Carbon, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Yeah,
He ran out of batteries and had to go charge up again.
Oh, okay.
Let's do the. Oh, go
add
ahead.
that to the notes. Yeah, if Carbon could add that to the notes, that we don't forget it later on. Would
which
be
I'm just doing
her uncle
this.
being an alcoholic.
I'm just doing this because the GIFs are just getting annoying and they're going to be in the recording and I don't want them in the recording. I don't want them to stay there. They were just annoying me. So yeah, I've just...
Okay.
You do have a point, or multiple points in this case.
Okay, anyway, powerful and privileged. What else did we have?
Alcoholic. And I guess like an implication arrow towards Sabrina or something like that influences her view of alcohol.
Okay. Teleporting arrow.
Teleporting arrow.
And it is often the case that someone who has an alcoholic relative will either become an alcoholic themselves or eschew alcohol altogether.
Yeah.
You take the case of take an extreme case like Donald Trump and his brother. Their father was an alcoholic, so he abstains from alcohol entirely, and his brother just copied his father. So it's a pretty common psychological, what's the word, thing that can occur.
Predisposition.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
I like teleporting arrows.
Okay.
They save space. And things look nice.
Anything else we can take out? I mean, we don't have to take everything that we just...
Yeah, I think we covered this one pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, what have we got here?
Okay.
In this one. So she's kind of... She's very... In this one, she's very psychologically abused.
There are lots of lies that she believes.
Yeah.
Like she believes that
bit of a
she believes that she's
personality.
Gaslit. She's gaslit.
Gaslit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that she believes she deserves all the abuse.
Yeah.
And that's simply not true. But it's a common thing for a lot of abused people to believe.
So yeah.
And for many of them, the reason why they'd rather be at fault is because it gives them control. So a lot of abused persons feel like they have no control, and so if they give themselves responsibility, then in their brain they give themselves retroactive control over the events, which is not healthy, but a makes sense that may happen.
I mean, it's some form of coping mechanism, I guess.
Yeah.
I would also add emotionally isolated.
Yeah.
Like, that's the vibe I get from that story.
It's true, because she's isolated from her mom and dad as well.
So I think
she's got nowhere to go.
She'd probably end up kind of with kind of like symptoms of autism, I guess, on the autism spectrum, even though she might not be, just from the emotional isolation, because it would have...
just make her a little awkward, not pick up some social cues once in a while.
Yeah.
Would you guys agree with me if we put impulsive in there as well? Because
obviously she is
strike
impulsive.
me. Yeah, it doesn't strike me as really thought out what she did in the story, which
definitely impulsive. Yeah.
Which I could.
Her plan was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did an Oscar Pistorius.
Basically, yeah.
There's also a good chance she will have a strong distrust of any adult males. Her dad didn't listen to her. Like, she's gonna have like another split thing where it's like, I don't trust any men. By the same token, though, I desperately want a father figure. So you could have like these two things pulling on her.
I would say even general distrust of adults, because her mother didn't listen to her either. Although,
and she lives in a city that's full of corruption too.
What about we make her mother not be her actual mother, but her mother, like her stepmother, something like that?
Half mother. Wait, that doesn't exist.
No, not half. Is it? What's the term for it? Like her father married again.
Yeah, that would be in English. That's stepmother.
Yeah,
I was
because
right.
that would make it more feasible for her stepmother to be emotionally detached from her and value her own.
That's true. However, that may lower the amount that she feels betrayed, because I'd feel more betrayed by my mother than by a stepmother. Having the
True.
experience of having a stepmother myself, when she does things that would kill me if my mother did, doesn't really impact me the same way if my stepmom does. So I'm in favor. Personally in favor of keeping it as her biological mother.
Yeah, I guess. Although that's gonna mess her way more. That's gonna mess her up way more.
Good. More emotional pain, better story.
I guess.
Pain is art.
Now let me look at what you got here so far, Robin.
We have, she's gaslit, she's self-loathing, she's emotionally isolated, she's impulsive, and she has a conflicting distrust of adults, but a want for parental influence.
Oh, she probably also will feel like not only was she betrayed, but she also betrayed her father. And she killed him using his own gun.
Betrayal themes.
Yeah. And then she was betrayed by the system because she's sent to this planet when she didn't deserve it. She's basically betrayed by everyone.
Yeah, so there's definitely themes of betrayal for her character.
Yeah, I guess distrust of authority as well, because her uncle is part of the authority, so distrust of official authorities, I guess. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that she wouldn't trust, like, a teacher person, that, like, figure.
She doesn't trust. She may not trust the law. She may not trust parental figures.
Or state institutions.
Rovka doesn't know this, but she was in for a whole lot more abuse if he hadn't rescued her from the Casiblanes.
Yeah.
Because whatever abuse she suffered from her parents and uncle was going to be, given to her fivefold.
I guess Rovka would know that.
Well, he would know, but he wouldn't know. He doesn't know her history. He doesn't know that it's
okay, true.
This connection.
Yeah,
to him, it's just like, I don't want to see a person abused, but he doesn't realize that she's already suffered, X amount, and that she's about to have it multiplied. I mean, can you imagine the karma that's building when she's betrayed by her mom, her dad, the system, her uncle on multiple occasions, and then she betrays her dad, and then she's betrayed by the authorities, and then she's abused by some strangers on another planet that they don't even speak her language. You know what I mean? So her life is terrible.
Like she was betrayed by the universe in that sense.
Yeah, and then she can start hating the universe and believes that humans are worth saving, and then she can, I don't know, take a gun into a school or something. Sorry, that was a little dark. My bad.
Just become
Galactic
American.
Empress.
She already is American.
Oh yeah, so she'll already take a gun into a school.
Okay. What about her uncle in this one? Is there anything noteworthy to say about him aside from him being sexual predator, I guess?
I think he's more entitled than the one in the previous one.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, he definitely has.
Again.
Yeah. He is corrupt because first off, it's illegal to have guns, and he has one. His brother-in-law has one, and he's able to get his son off of a manslaughter charge, multiple manslaughter charges. You know what I mean? So he's obviously corrupt. He's not visibly impressive. He's a short, chubby old guy that can't grow a beard.
So yeah, powerful, but not physically.
Yeah, because he's shorter than most people. She runs away and she outruns him because he's a older fat dude.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Not there's anything wrong with that.
I guess we could add manipulative. I'm not sure how important that trait will be for the uncle for us to consider, but
yeah.
Well, he definitely has some controlling attributes. He definitely has controlling attributes.
Master manipulator.
Okay.
That probably goes into his whole personality. He can manipulate. He can manipulate the public. He can manipulate the political system. He can manipulate this individual.
Which also allowed him to gaslight her then. Gaslight her then.
I'm gonna write snake-like because that's just kind of I'm saying about the way he talks, the way he interacts is kind of snake-like.
I would also write something down for the mother, like how the mother is characterized in this one, because it also ties in for Sabrina, which is values or has high material interest, something like.
She obviously has some sort of resentment that she allows to cloud her judgment.
No. So
Materially driven?
Materialistic is the word. There is a word in English for that. Mother is materialistic. She's also resentful.
Resentful? Yeah.
And I guess her father is going to be something similar, considering he's got this lucrative job that he's not willing to even hear his daughter's grievances if it threatens that.
Yeah, but honestly, it could just be disinterested in her.
So I just write apathetic and preoccupied.
But that's
a career dad who kind of ignores his family.
Yeah, I'm not going to write anything for the father because he's barely there. He's just he's a MacGuffin who dies.
Well, he's not there anymore at all. So
he's a plot device. The father is basically just a plot device in this. So
yeah. Okay, I guess we got everything out of this one, or is there anything else we haven't thought about?
I think we're good on the characterizations here. So, now we go on to mine, which is, as it happens, the only one where the murder victim is very, very heavily characterized.
I would say, for the sake of it, I would start with Sabrina again, because we did so for the others as well. As I said at the beginning of your another, when we talked about your story, she has some good characterization in there, and I would say she's a bit dreamy or
absent-minded.
Absent-minded, yeah. I think you had a word in there as well that characterized her. Can't remember which one. I think it was something about her father didn't like that she was such and such.
Fantastical.
I mean, absent-minded is good.
Fantastical.
Sorry, what? Fantastical. Yeah, that would make sense as well. I guess I would have said old-fashioned, but that's not quite the right term, I would say. What would be the correct term for it? Because she's interested in, like,
books
antiquities,
and religion and stuff.
I mean, do you know what I mean?
I guess, yeah. It would be kind of like someone today who basically only reads things that are considered to be classics and doesn't read modern books.
Or only listens to the Neils, for example, instead of, like, I don't know, listening to the radio.
Yeah. Or rather, only listens to the radio instead of watching TV or something like that.
Yeah,
watching
something
TV.
along those
Who in
lines.
Generation Z watches TV? I do. I don't even know if I'm Generation Z. I might be. I might be Generation Y. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, not that important.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily old-fashioned. Like, old-fashioned, to me, has, like, a moral component to it.
So, I'm going to write down that she's spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah, spiritual, that's for sure.
She was also a bookworm. Cassiblon probably isn't the place for her.
Yeah. She is indeed. I'm going to say she's an academic. She is both an academic and she's... Yeah.
Guess you could say she wanted to book it from there.
I mean, we had to have a pun at some point.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. I mean, true, but that's also... I wouldn't know the German term for it. Wait a sec. Maybe there is an English one. I'm gonna... Actually, the English term for the German term that I just googled is a German term as well. Cool.
What's the term?
The German one or the English one that's also a German one?
The English one.
Wanderlust.
Oh, Wanderlust.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
It's
great
not
song
quite-
by Nightwish. That song is sick.
Yeah, we
I'm not
pronounce it
sure of
Wanderlust.
the English connotations associated with that word, so
It probably doesn't
you guys
have,
have to tell me.
probably has the same connotation, just not as strong.
Would that fit for Sabrina in this background story then?
I mean, she's like scared of the stars and is always trying to read. She might try to she's trying to travel somewhere, whether physically or in her mind. Wanderlust would probably work.
Yeah. I was trying to find a dictionary, but yeah, I'll put it anyway. Even though I don't really remember the exact definition.
Weirdly enough, we have a lot of German words in this session.
English is a Germanic language, you should expect that.
Well, I guess I got caught off guard then. Oh, one thing I also want to add for this short story that's in a bit of a contrast to the others is Sabrina has to have a certain level of social competence in this one.
Yeah.
Because she has a boyfriend. So
Yeah, I'm just going to say has a boyfriend.
yeah.
And all of the connotations of that.
Okay.
So we need the other characters as well. So for the first time, the victim gets massive characterization.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that the father was a plot device in yours, and puns was a bit too short for him to actually allow for any characterization of anyone other than Sabrina. That is what I am trying to say.
So, how do we summarize this bad boy?
Protective, I guess.
I wouldn't really... Yeah, he is protective, yeah.
He's patient and
Not
understanding.
overprotective, but
Yeah. He's patient.
He's patient. Like he lets her read a book while he wants to show her something.
Yeah.
Like if that were me, I would have been like, "Put that book down. I'm trying to show you something."
But if you were reading the book, would you not have gone, "Can I finish my page?" Although she went, "Can I finish my chapter?"
I would have said, "Let me get to a stopping point."
Yeah, that's basically what she did.
which
Except
is
she went,
50 pages down the
Yeah.
line. Or 5 sentences. Could
Yeah.
be either or. Okay, other things. I don't know. I think protective covers a lot of his behavior.
Well, I'm going to also say that he is caring. He's just generally a nice guy. Which is why
He
it
sounds-
was-
Last name.
He sounds like a
last name nice
smart,
guy?
tall jock. He sounds like a tall, smart jock.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's valedictorian and the captain of the football team.
Which is why it was so much fun to kill him.
He has so much life in him.
He is likable.
Yeah.
He loves life. So I can't help but some of these cheesy funeral tropes.
Yeah, likable. I don't know if likable is EA or if it's just straight to the A from the K.
Should be. It's in the word. Okay, no one noticed that pun.
No.
EA?
Maybe
Electronic Arts?
maybe it was a German pun.
No, it was just a bad pun. It was
Yeah.
just genuinely a bad pun.
Well, then why didn't pun say it?
Pun has a certain level of
He's a level all his own.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to point out that Stephen does actually fit in with the rest of society. And I should put for Sabrina that she doesn't fit in. She is socially competent, but she does not fit in. So that would mean, presumably, that Stephen probably asked her out, not the other way around.
She understands society, but sees herself like a bit outside of it.
Yeah, I mean, even a regular person in today's society isn't going to look up at the stars and go, "Oh, look, the campfires of immortals."
Mm.
I look at the stars and say, "Hey, those are really pretty." I don't usually alliterate to them.
I usually look at the stars and go, "Oh wow, I can actually see those," unlike people in giant cities in America. Also, I know the life cycles of those, and I know how far away they are, and I know how they're going to die, or if they've already died. And I know a lot about them, and it takes all the wonder out of them.
It's a bit like getting into story writing. Like
Yeah.
you could have probably enjoyed a lot of movies and books way more if you didn't get the theoretical background.
Yeah, like you're watching a movie and you go, "Oh look, that's Chekhov's gun. Now I know the entire plot." We're 10 minutes in, I know the entire plot because I've seen that one Chekhov's gun and I know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, you can also kind of appreciate those things a bit more because you know what goes into it.
Yeah.
And that they probably thought about what they did, hopefully. I mean, you also see if they didn't.
And you're also not an idiot like a high school English teacher who goes, "The curtains, the blue color of the curtains, it's represented his sadness and his depression, and it has so much soul in it." The author's just going, "The curtains were bloody blue."
Well, not bloody, but blue.
Yeah, they're blue.
Yeah. But
Okay,
the English teacher will have you analyze that all day. Just go, it's thematical of this. No, it's not.
I mean, you can interpret that into it. Doesn't mean it was the intention of the author. I would.
You can
rarely
interpret
try
that
to-
into it, but it makes you look like a wanker.
Yeah, it makes you look a bit pretentious, which is the whole goal, though, isn't it? Okay, do we want to add anything to Stephen, or do we want to go to the father then?
Is there anything else for Stephen? I'm probably just gonna add a last thing of he's industrious.
Oh, wait, did he set up the chandeliers?
He helped.
Oh, okay.
Industrious / what's the word? Wanting to get somewhere in life. Ambitious.
I guess ready to help? Or just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that
Like,
kind of
he's-
falls into patient and understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I mean, you can be patient and understanding, but don't give a fuck about it at the end, in the sense that you're not going to help someone.
Yeah.
It was fun to kill. Okay. Yeah, I would move on to the father, and then we kind of have to start wrapping it up, I think.
Father. The Nameless Father.
I guess...
So, in
Choleric?
this timeline, he is a traditionalist.
Shouldn't we just write atheist so we know what that entails for us to keep...
The entire thing for him is that he wants everything to be exactly the same. He wants to be exactly the same as the rest of society and doesn't want to be any different to anyone else. So I'm just going to throw in a Harry Potter reference. He's a Dursley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
That just sums up all he wants to fit in with society.
That also kind of like explains why he's so angry and he's easy to anger.
Yeah.
Sure.
That basically gives a pretty good rundown of what the father is like.
He's a strong atheist. He's a very strong atheist. He's just like, there is absolutely no room here. I will not accept this. Oh, and he's definitely a bigot. He's very much a bigot.
Oof.
It's just like, I do not want you under my roof if you are not exactly the same as everyone else.
It's my
So
way.
what is it? What is it?
It's my
So
way.
what is it that the father doesn't like about Stephen?
The fact that he is associated with his daughter who he doesn't like.
It's a problem.
So it's kind of the most horrible thing. So a lot of fathers would go, I don't like you because you're dating my daughter and I want to protect her. He goes, I don't like you because you're dating my daughter and I hate my daughter.
And I ruined things for her.
Yeah. Honestly, that's not impossible that dynamic would happen. It's kind of sad to think about how many possible family dynamics exist that are perfectly possible and do happen around the world.
Yeah. So what else would there be about the father? So much folds into Dursley here.
Yeah, it explains a whole lot. I don't know. I mean, he wasn't in the story for very long. And Dursley really covers a whole lot of the actions he does take in the story, so...
Yeah.
I guess we can move on to the part of what do we actually take into the short story.
I'm just going to say against physical books. And as we are all writers and therefore readers, I would say that we immediately hate him.
I mean, maybe not hate. Maybe he likes at least ebooks. I would still dislike him, though.
He has a subscription to Audible.
One free audiobook.
Okay.
He keeps using different emails to get new free audiobooks.
Don't listen to what. Don't let him know my strategy.
Okay. So I guess the first thing we need to decide on is how the family structure looks like. Is there an abusive uncle or not? And what relationship does Sabrina have with her parents? And does she have a boyfriend, I guess? That's the 3 or 4 things we need to figure out before we get into which parts of the characterization we take into the short story.
Well, I'd like her to have had a boyfriend just because I really enjoyed writing that character.
Yeah, I also think her having a boyfriend would be kind of
Although I
nice
more
for...
enjoy killing him violently, but still.
I mean, we don't need to have him die. We can also still kill the father, or maybe even the mother or uncle. So,
or we can keep the death ambiguous if we want.
You're going to say I can kill him.
Yeah.
Instead of this specific purpose.
Yeah, there was a thing with this line at the end here. I kind of was iffy about it because she would receive her dream and she would have forever. He would be forever in her dreams. I kind of considered instead she would receive her dream and she would have forever. But he wouldn't, or something like that. Something like that. But,
so,
yeah.
I'm gonna say how I would see her family relation, and then I guess everyone else can also say how they see it, and we can see where
I can't fit everything on the screen. I mean, I can, but we can't read it if I do that.
Hmm.
It's completely
So-
illegible.
I would like her to have the family relation as in Cordain's story, but also her having her boyfriend. I guess the boyfriend wouldn't play as much of a role in this one.
She
but
could
I
have an
would-
abusive boyfriend.
I don't know.
But you want
I think the uncle-
the nice boyfriend.
Yeah, I would rather have him be a nice boyfriend, and maybe she doesn't open up to him because she's ashamed of it. So he isn't really in the know, and then he's like shocked. Wait, this thing happened, and I wasn't aware of it. So
Mm-hmm. Oh, so she has a. So it's basically my version with
Mhm.
a boyfriend thrown in.
yeah,
Who? Hey, there's an idea.
yeah. Who doesn't have like a good grasp on how her situation is? Maybe they're not together for that long yet. So
Or maybe ever since or maybe they're maybe they're in a long distance relationship ever since they moved to their
Yeah.
penthouse, and
True.
she's at a new school. They're not going to school anymore, and so you could do that where it's like, well, we want to stay together, but we're young and
long distance. Yeah, I was also thinking about long distance at first, but I wasn't sure if that's
Getting some
that
big
would-
Romeo and Juliet vibes there.
oh,
yeah,
geez.
kind of. But the boyfriend probably wouldn't die in this one. They would just get
No.
torn apart, basically.
Romeo and Juliet is just kind of a hilarious thing to me because it was intended by Shakespeare. Well, not intended by Shakespeare. It was intended by the Romans because, it wasn't him who wrote it. But intended by the original writers to be a thing that it was a warning about the dangers of love at first sight. And then people went, oh, it's so romantic. And you've got
Right.
Shakespeare and that sitting there going, no, that's not what it's meant to be.
No intermingling.
Yeah, oopsie.
Yeah, so basically that would be my proposal. Take
Well, you can-
Cordain's relation.
If you want to lengthen the story, you can say that he got partially blamed for it too, and so he's also on the planet on a different he's on the same ship,
Planet.
but he's on a different he's on the same ship but got off on a different landing craft, and that could be like she doesn't tell Rovka, hey, I want to, like, he's like, why don't you want to like flee far away, and it's like she's actually trying to find her stupid boyfriend, and
Yeah.
then he dies.
Yeah.
And then he dies. Then he gets killed by a chandelier.
Still, it's just inevitable. Just
Couldn't we just kill him with a piano?
The chandelier is Thanos. The chandelier just comes and goes, I am inevitable.
Yep.
Yeah. So, any objections to my proposal, or
Well,
any
I
adjustments to it?
still like the characterization of Sabrina as being kind of quite a spiritual person and kind of looking up at the stars and imagining what they are, and then just the irony of you wanted to explore the universe. Well, here you go. Just not the way you
that's-
expected.
I wouldn't say that's exclusionary.
No, I don't think it's precluded by your suggestion. I just think it should be included as well, just because I really like that bit of the characterization. Of her
Yeah, I would
being
agree with that.
Well, if you change the name of the boyfriend and you keep the exact same characterization that you have from Carbon's story, I bet we could actually sew him into.
The short story.
You just chop him out. Just chop Steven. You could have one named Steven and the other named Stefan. That would be hilarious. You just chop him out and stick him in mine, and we could probably stitch it together.
But if his name is Stefan and he doesn't say we are number one, then have you written a good story?
Oh god.
No, not we are number one. We are one.
I don't
Okay.
think Cordain got the reference.
No, I didn't. I don't know. Maybe you guys have seen. Well, everyone's
Lazy
seen more
Tara.
movies than I have.
Well,
Everyone's seen
no.
more movies than me.
It wasn't a movie, it was a kids' TV
It's
show.
a kids series.
Oh. Well, I never had a childhood, so.
Okay, but we're fine
Excuse
with
me,
the.
I was built in a lab and I've heard of it.
Well,
But
I milked cows all day and never had any TV because, you know what's funny? When people learn that I'm Mormon, some people are like, "So do you guys have TVs?" I'm like, "No, we have TVs. I think you're thinking of Amish." Do you guys drive cars? Yeah, we're not Amish guys. Anyway,
so just to clarify, we're fine with the family constellation that I proposed then, with basically taking Cordaine's constellation and adding a boyfriend into it.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't really detract from anything in mine at all, I don't think, just because there's not a huge amount of characterization of her family in mine other than her father is just kind of evil.
Which is more or less a plot device on yours anyway.
Yeah. And in Cordaine's,
okay.
the father is a plot device.
So, I guess we should move on to the final characterization for Sabrina, which bits we take, and which bits we may leave out.
So, my thought for her for one bit of her characterization, this whole lump right here. I would like that entire lump of characterization.
That would be her spirituality, I guess, and also kind of the wanderlust that maybe
that's going to be tough to put in there. I mean, the boyfriend would be easier to put in there than that characterization.
I think the spirituality, not really. And I guess the wanderlust aspect of it would probably take a backseat, especially at the start. Maybe when the whole thing gets settled out again.
Let's just turn it into a full
situated.
novel, and we can add anything we want.
No. Please no.
The longer part of the short story isn't the part on the bars anymore. It's the part before she gets there. So the backstory is just becomes a story of its own.
No, that's too much. This is not an anime.
We'll use up all of the characters' character development before we actually get to the main story. We'll do a solo a Star Wars story. That's what we're gonna do. Use up.
Can we have
character development?
Can we have a summary of the character traits a bit to the right then from all the text? So about there that we write Sabrina, and then we put the traits that we want her to have. So
I would like the
spirituality
and wanderlust, as you called it.
I'm not
Dude,
sure
you gotta pronounce it right.
Wanderlust.
Wanderlust.
Wanderlust. Okay.
Oh, I was saying pronounce it like an American.
Wanderlust. Wanderlust.
It's the most blasé thing. I love it.
Wanderlust.
Okay, I said American, not Texan.
Why you want?
I'm not sure how
speak
much
in this American accent. You wanted me to speak in a weird Southern accent.
Not bad, a little squeaky.
Not sure how much the wanderlust is gonna influence the story.
Yeehaw, y'all! I'm American from the southern states, and I'm speaking like an idiot. I'm speaking like I'm inbred. I'm from Alabama.
Those are some terrible stereotypes. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
You didn't say they were wrong.
Now, what did you say back there about Alabama?
Okay, growing up, I watched tons of History Channel and Discovery Channel, and there was one dude on there that was this really brilliant astronomer dude, and he had a strong Texas accent, and so I never associated the Southern accent with being stupid because I always heard this smart dude with a Texas accent dispensing knowledge. He's also really fat, but he was cool.
So if he was fat,
smart,
he
anyway.
probably had a lot more of a nasally Texas accent.
He definitely didn't sound like a cowboy.
Anyway,
I would also. Okay, maybe we go through the Sabrina character traits from left to right, so we can have an overview of what we could take from each story.
so we have driven but naive. Do we want that?
Yeah, I think that would
Cool.
make sense. Also, hatred of alcohol is probably something that would be interesting to have in the story.
That would be an interesting thing,
So maybe have those.
especially from a 15-year-old who her peers are probably all very curious about alcohol, but for her, she despises it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking probably we don't want the no parents one,
Yeah, that's
and we
I
definitely
wouldn't
don't want psychotic.
Yeah,
So hatred of
So-
alcohol and driven but naive.
driven but naive. Yeah, maybe. I guess naive. I was thinking about maybe adding inexperienced. I guess it also kind of ties into being naive.
I mean, we can throw in inexperienced. That's fine.
Yeah, because she's young. She's still relatively young, so she may think about something. But
I damaged my pen that I use on this, and it's really annoying. Like, it doesn't change the performance of it, but it's like it's bent at the top. It's very annoying. I do have a spare, but I can't be bothered getting it out.
okay, so then the second story.
Gaslit. Do we want
gaslit.
gaslit?
Yeah, I think that would. Okay. Wait. I guess we have to decide on how the murder or death goes down. I would say, for the sake of simplicity, that how it went down with Cordain's story is probably the easiest way for us to go on.
I mean, we could just leave it ambiguous until we get to the part of the main story where she actually goes, "But I lied to you."
I mean, but
I'm
it's.
a liar.
I mean, it's important for us to know whether she was gaslit by her uncle or not.
He was secretly a Russian spy the entire time. It was all your fault. I actually considered kind of doing something with that kind of theme in it as my backstory. I considered doing a thing where where kind of an enemy of the father shows up after the father kind of just shoved Sabrina into a basement, and that and goes, "Oh no, you wouldn't kill me. They'd know that it was you, so I'm still here," and blah blah blah. And then the father just goes ahead and shoots him and goes, "Oh, but I would," and then pulls Sabrina out and goes, "Now this is your fault." But then I decided that was too cheesy and weird.
It would be a bit cheesy, yeah.
Also, I really wanted to kill a likable character.
I really don't like that. I see it too often. I don't like that.
You don't like killing likable characters?
Yes, I don't. Here's the thing. I also, when it's like role-playing games, I almost never play like the bad roles or the evil roles. I try at times, and go like, no, can't do that. Not gonna finish. So do we take over the gaslit and self-loathing aspects of the characterization then?
I think you need those.
I would also assume that that's probably something that we'll need.
Okay, gaslit and self-loathing.
Conflicting. I would say a lot of the. Yeah, I would have to have a look again, but I would say almost all of the characterization in Cordain's story would lend itself well there.
I'm gonna say probably the emotional isolation wouldn't. Because if she has a boyfriend...
Yeah, not to the same extent. I guess emotional manipulation, maybe, instead of isolation.
Yeah, but that's in the characterization of the person, of the uncle and that, or whatever.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, okay, we can... Yeah, it's true, we can put that there.
Impulsive.
Conflicting distrust of adults, and yeah, I guess the other one would betrayal themes. Yeah.
You know, I can't read your mind.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud. Yeah, I would probably take the other 4 characterizations there as well. Personally. Not so sure about the conflicting distrust of adults and betrayal themes.
Betrayal themes, I'm just going to do this because it's not really a character trait.
Yeah.
Just to make a point that that's not something we can bring over. It's not a character trait.
Yeah.
So we've got these 3 things that are kind of like, does she have a distrust of authority? Does she not?
I would assume so. And I guess the impulsiveness would probably tie into how she got into the situation in the first place. So I would probably take those 3 over.
Sorry it took me so long. I had to finish my sandwich. Yes, I agree. I think we need the distrust of authority. Did you eliminate the emotional isolation?
Yes.
Because if we take in the boyfriend, it would make more sense for her to be emotionally manipulated instead of completely isolated.
Well, it could be that the emotional isolation is only partial. You can make it so that Bruin is trying to isolate her, and it's still in the process, and so that's one reason why her and her boyfriend, their relationship is a little bit strained somewhat, because she's only beginning to be isolated. Because one thing that abusive people will do is they'll try to turn you against your own family. That way, you're the only one they can go to.
Yeah, that's why Calm also said we're probably gonna put that into the uncle's characterization instead of Sabrina. Which I think makes sense because it's in his interest more. Like it's ties more into him.
Conflicting distrust of adults and one for parental influence. That's kind of one that I'm kind of iffy about.
Yeah. I think it would be interesting for the short story. I'm not sure if it's necessarily the result of the background.
You could eliminate the bottom line and just say she has a conflicting distrust of adults and just leave it there and leave out the yearning for parental influence. Because I think the distrust of adults is because she has. It's not just that she's been betrayed by her family. She's been betrayed by every adult she's tried to get to help her, because like she lives in a corrupt system. Like she lives in a system where she has everything she has because of her uncle's influence. His son got off on a manslaughter, on like 4 manslaughter charges just because of influence. That's just you could say that from her perspective, adults just generally are crummy.
Now we're here. We already have these 2.
Mm-hmm.
Is she absent-minded or fantastical? And we were.
I don't think we need. I don't think we need absent-minded. Fantastical. I think you could just attach to the wanderlust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you could discard both of those.
That's kind of irrelevant.
And you could hear something. You could make it so that she is, by nature she's academic, but due to her abuse, she's been distracted of late, and her focus has slipped.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she has an academic predisposition.
Yes. But because of her circumstances, she's too distracted and taken up in her own internal self.
Okay, I will say that she has a suppressed academic predisposition.
That's good. That works.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I know words in English and I can string together phrases like that.
I'm very impressed.
I guess they has a boyfriend.
Is not a
okay,
character trait.
we put that in because we said that she's socially competent.
Yeah, I'm leaving the line there, but the green there, but I'm not actually going to put it in the character traits. Just on the grounds that it's not actually a trait.
Okay, the doesn't fit in. Doesn't fit into society.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's. Yeah, I guess.
So.
Yeah, we should probably have that.
Instead of writing that, I'll write. My writing keeps getting smaller.
Yeah, what's up with that, bro?
Socially competent, but an outsider.
Like, she knows how to do small talk and stuff like that, but probably not that interested in doing so on her own. Or like...
Well, it could also be that I've known people, especially younger people, who are afraid of their own thoughts. So they always have music on. Not necessarily that if you always have music on, this is what you're like. I'm just saying that I've known people where they're afraid of their own thoughts, so they always have to have music on. They always have to have something creating static. So you can make it so that she can totally do small talk. She can totally talk about, I love your outfit. What do you want to do tomorrow? Yeah, the show is great. Whatever. But talking about anything of real substance is more difficult for her because whenever she talks about things of substance, she can't help but think about the difficulties she has and the pain she's experiencing.
So what you just described is called being an introvert.
Being afraid of your own thoughts?
Well, more the not wanting to really talk to anyone about anything of significance.
Well, you must be a different kind of introvert from me. I'm taking the definition of introvert from I have to expend energy to socialize, whereas extroverts gain energy from socializing.
Well, I suppose there's that one as well, yeah.
I love I'm an introvert. I love talking to people, but when I'm done talking with them, I have to kind of go...
Deep breath.
Yeah, I got to recharge my batteries. Got to decompress.
Same. Okay, I think we got basically all of the characterization for Sabrina down then. Oh, that's one thing we should decide on. Did she intentionally hurt the person that died?
She intentionally hurt someone. My vote is that she did intentionally hurt someone, not necessarily the person she intended to hurt, but she intentionally,
I mean, that happens in all three. She does intentionally hurt someone in all three.
Yeah, okay, but in yours, she's just pushing her father.
She didn't intend to kill them.
Thanos the chandelier is inevitable.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think, because I think that's a useful information to have. If push comes to shove, and she feels cornered, she is gonna lash out.
If push comes to shove, a chandelier will fall.
Exactly.
I mean, you said if push comes to shove. Come on, that's exactly what she did to make the.
Yeah.
We got your joke. Calm down.
A pun, goddammit, Colin.
Yeah.
Oh no, I know you made the joke. I was just criticizing Colin's choice of words.
Yeah, I wasn't doing that intentionally, actually. Just like she did. Anyway. So, how do we write that down? lashes out if attacked.
That kind of
something
falls into impulsive.
impulsive.
You could say you could say she's kind of a badger in a trap.
So,
You know what I mean? It's like she's not gonna attack you, but if she's cornered, she will fight.
There.
Yeah, fight or
That's how
flight
I've
is
written
in fight. Yeah.
Fight or
Yeah,
flight.
okay.
That's the one she picks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Good. We have that settled down. I think the next... Should we do the boyfriend then, or should we go to the uncle?
Let's do the uncle next.
Okay. So I'm just.
I think we could just basically keep him the way I had him. And just throw in some whiskey.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we should probably have a look at yours again to see.
Entitled and
Master
corrupt,
magician,
powerful but not physically, master manipulator and snake-like.
And then
Low
the
T.
alcoholic from Bonn.
And then there's powerful and privileged, which was already there, and alcoholic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically just a combination of the two.
So it would be easy. You could just add a single sentence and just say like, make him behave a little bit differently, and add the smell of alcohol. I mean,
True.
that'd be easy to add. Super easy. And then give a couple more sentences her reacting to that, just being like, "Oh, I hate that smell," that sort of thing. It always makes adults do things that I don't like.
That I have. This is my level of laziness. I literally.
I mean, that's exactly what I would have done. That's not lazy, that's efficient.
That's the mantra of every programmer ever. I'm not lazy. I'm efficient.
Damn it! How do you know I'm a programmer then?
I automated it.
On the flip side, there are people. On the flip side, there are people that always say, "Well, I'm sorry, I can't do that because I'll be busy." And it's like, "Yeah, but are you doing anything useful when you're busy?" And I was like, "Well, no."
I am collating data and doing all this data management. Could you automate it? Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce that word?
Like I've run into so many people before. They go, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this a whole lot of data in a spreadsheet, so much spreadsheeting," and I just go, "Can it be automated?" Because if it can be automated, you are wasting your time. Write a program, automate it, move on.
I mean, that depends on whether you get paid for wasting your time or not.
Yeah,
If someone's willing to pay
you
you,
get paid a salary.
yeah. If someone's paying you to waste your time, then might as well waste your time. I mean, it's not your cost then.
Just write the program really slowly. Check Stack Exchange every single time just to make sure everything you're doing is correct.
Okay, so now next step is the boyfriend, I guess?
Yeah. I feel like he can just be exactly the same.
Yeah, I agree.
I
throw in some-
would add a few things here and there, because
I'd add some concern.
Yeah, I would say that he's not as much in the know as he is in Carbon's story.
But
Okay, I gotta ask this. Will she and her boyfriend have a physical relationship?
probably not.
Yeah.
Because she already has one with someone, and that can get really murky and messy for someone who's abused.
I would say
So-
probably not, because he is patient and understanding, so that's not what was meant to happen.
So wait, patient, understanding people can't have a physical relationship with someone?
No, as in, if she says no,
Oh yeah.
he's not going to push
Yeah,
it
he's
down.
which is yes. Well, he's also sounds like a kind, good person. So, I mean,
So
he
the
can't be a bad
question-
person considering he's a valedictorian captain of the football team. He can't be a bad person.
So the question then is, does he stay on Earth, or is he also gonna get shipped to the planet? Because I mean, in both scenarios, he can still be not as much in the know as he was in Carbon's situation. and he just basically stumbles into the scene or something like that.
So he's unknowing
Uh-huh.
in this instance. I mean, kind of a thing you can do is kind of just, if you really lengthen the story a lot, you can kind of start with the start of mine, edit it a little bit with the introduction with the boyfriend, so that it's not like your dad wanted you inside, you don't want that anymore, you change it to something else. Then you move from that into Cordain's story, that then goes through all of that. Then the boyfriend comes back in at some point during that.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense. Yeah, we could bring him into the short story if we want to. Then
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
So
I don't think there's a lot to it then.
there is a potential for implication if we want him to be implicated, as in implicated in the crime.
Okay, I guess the characterization for her mother and her father we can probably.
Can probably not really care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's good to know how her mother relates to her, but I guess we already have it in there. We don't need to summarize it again.
Well, and just some characterization from her mom. Her mom cares about things that aren't important, and
they are
refuses to care about
important
things
to
that are important to her. But she forces her views on her own daughters. So she's like, "We're wealthy now, so you have to wear these fancy clothes." And she's like, "I don't want to wear them," but she's gonna wear them anyway because that's what her mom wants. You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's basically about sums it up, I guess.
And I'm also going to throw in bigoted.
Yeah. I think Carbon and Cordain's characterization don't exclude each other, so...
Yeah. And I like the addition of a boyfriend because it shows that even though she is isolated in all these different ways, you know, in all this emotional pain, there is one place that she does have some sort of relative safety. So that way it's not just this...
And then I killed him.
I mean, it also means that she's capable of empathy and that she's driven to it, or driven into the way she acted because of her circumstances.
Blue.
I was going to, but I can't actually do the circle. I need to move the circle away first. I was going to do blue. Okay, that's blue. And then I need to do all of that. That's blue. Oh, come on.
Yay.
Man.
And then that's... I can't change the color of that. And then
Okay.
we'll sit that in there. So yeah, and the parents, they need a color. What color are you, parents? What
I don't know. I think what color's apathetic? I think
Yeah, they're neutral.
Black is do orange. It's halfway between
orange or brown, I would say.
I mean, we could make them yellow.
yellow belly. Yeah, sounds great. Kind of cowardly.
So we've got kind of like, this is main character, kind of angel and devil kind of thing, and then kind of neutral party, but weighted towards the devil side. So I guess orange would actually fit better.
Okay, this is so not important. Just color it already.
It is orange. It is important to me.
What I really like is that after about 2.5 hours, we at least end up with Sabrina having the most characterization, while also giving enough thought to all the other circumstances that put her into the kind of, like, molded her into the kind of person she is in the short story.
Now, do we actually want to rewrite this to include all this?
I certainly won't. If you feel like it, I wouldn't stop you, but I feel like this is the information we need for the short story.
No.
and
I may do it with some free time.
yeah,
If I get the time to do it, I might. But remember, I also need to write my own Aegis Omniorum continuation, which I never got to write because I didn't get the time.
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
even I did it.
You're
in
the
deadline.
only one who did it.
Cool, I win by default again. Yeah,
You know, my
anyway.
dad one time entered a apple pie making contest and got first place because he was the only one in the contest. So still has the trophy and everything.
I once entered a chocolate cake making competition, and when I was a kid, and won first place, which was $4. There were 3 entrants, and the other 2 were disqualified for cheating.
Wow.
How did they get disqualified for cheating?
Because they put icing on it. They weren't allowed to put icing on it for the competition because appearance was part of it.
Oof.
So that both
Oh,
of the
so they
other
try to
people,
make it look better.
yeah, both of the other people.
They
put
didn't read the
icing.
rules.
Yeah. But it was brown icing, so that because I imagine they thought they wouldn't notice that it was brown icing. I don't know.
So, Carbon, did you, on a different topic, did you read the combo I made of me and Colin's part 2s?
I've read it, yes. I haven't edited it because I still need to style it.
Do you want to tell me what you thought of it?
I quite liked it. It didn't feel like it jerked between the 2.
Okay, good. That's what I needed to know.
The prose is terrible, but I mean,
Hey, I mean, yeah.
as in the
Whoa.
just the flow generally. But I mean, I would, not to try to sound arrogant or anything, but I think that my prose, my flow in my writing tends to be the best out of this group in general.
I think Cordain can do pretty good prose. It just takes a bit longer. Would be my
I
assumption.
need more editing. Well,
Yeah.
I usually spend a lot less time on. I don't know how much time you spend on the Carbon because the time I spend on these stories is not consistent.
That's fair.
It also might be just like.
That's not a
practice.
defense, though. That's right. You are really old, so
If I remember correctly, Carbon has to write relatively consistently for his scientific communications, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of writing, just generally speaking.
Yeah, so practice.
I write I write emails, but they're not like this. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
but now that you've broken down our skills, so I mean, I would be in favor of just. Well, do we want to talk about that combo in another session?
We can,
I would
yeah.
say so. It's
Okay.
It's been a while.
If anyone
and
wants to write it, they can. Like, if you desperately want to.
you mean for the
I mean,
background now?
Yeah, the background.
Back.
Okay.
Backstory.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
I will consider it.
I will edit the combo at some point.
I would say the backstory, a rewrite for that is a nice to have, but I wouldn't put it high on our priority
It's
list.
not necessary. It's just kind of... It's a luxury. It's a luxury product.